Welcome to the Private Practice Startup, where we inspire you from startup to mastery. We chat with entrepreneurs, experts in the mental health and business arenas, and successful private practitioners to give you the tools needed to make your dream practice a reality. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, and so much more. Here are your hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey there, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Katie Lemieux, and we are here with my other co-host.
Hey, everybody. It's Kate Campbell. We're here online. Yes, we're all three podcasting from three different places, which is so fun. I didn't have to drive the hour commute to Katie's house today. I was thinking as I was getting stuff done this morning, I'm like, oh man, this is so much more productive. This is like way smarter. We need to do this more often because it's...
I was thinking the same thing.
It sounds good. It's working well, and it's much better, much more efficient. So, yeah, we're here with Travis Hornsby today. Hey, Travis, what's up?
Hey, great to be here.
Good to have you here.
So Travis is going to be talking to us today about how to handle six-figure student loans as a therapist. That makes me want to put the hand over my head. Oh, thankfully, I paid off my student loans, I think, in 2016. So I said, bye-bye. But I know some of you guys struggle with that. So this is really important, especially if you guys have those massive loans. It's like a mortgage. Oh, well, Travis is going to help you guys with that today. So that's really awesome. But before we get started, if this is your first time joining us, we want to say welcome. It is such a pleasure to have you. You are our VIP. And for that, we have a gift for you. All therapists need paperwork, whether you like it, love it, hate it, or not. We have attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and we want to invite you to test drive ours. So we'd like to gift you our HIPAA form for free. And the way to grab that is head over to privatepracticestartup.com, head over to the resources tab, and look for the HIPAA download, and you can get that for free. Last week on our show, we had Gordon Brewer. And Gordon talked to us about creating a private practice that is financially sustainable. So we talk a lot about mindset in that, but also really being brutally honest with your numbers, knowing your why, and really, if as a therapist, a lot of times we do have a lot of shame in the sense of, we want to help others, and then money and shame and helping others, it just kind of all gets jumbled in this kind of pot. So really identifying what kind of lifestyle you want to live, and, doing that unapologetically, because you deserve that. You help others, you transform lives, and our world and what we do is so important. So check out that really awesome conversation with Gordon on last week's show. So before we dive into the topic, we'll take a quick break for our sponsor.
Today's sponsor for today's episode is Gusto. If you're in private practice, you most likely wear a lot of different hats, and some of those hats are totally cool, but some, like filing taxes and running payroll, not so great. That's where Gusto comes in. They make payroll, taxes, and HR actually really easy for small businesses. It's fast and simple payroll processing. They also offer benefits and expert HR support all in one place. Gusto automatically pays and files your federal, state, and local taxes, so you don't have to worry about it. You can knock that additional item off the to-do list, and it's all automated, which is so awesome. Plus, they make it easy for you to add any health benefits or even 401ks for you or your team. So let them wear one of your many hats. You have better things to do and more important roles to focus on. Listeners get 3 months free when they run the first payroll. You can also try a demo and see for yourself how amazing Gusto is at gusto.com/PPS, as in Private Practice Startup. You can also find the link on our show notes page. So make sure to check that out.
I love how a financial sponsor is a sponsor for a financial topic. So that's perfect. So Travis Hornsby is a CFA. What does that mean? A chartered financial analyst?
Yeah, exactly. You got it. No, you got it.
Cool. So Travis used to trade billions in bonds for the world's largest mutual fund firm before he decided he wanted to help people like his wife, who had a big negative net worth. And he's helped over 1,000 clients eliminate debt as a source of stress. So let's just kind of dive in. I guess let's dive into the place of where did you decide to kind of leave that behind, and what made you decide that you wanted to help people in this fashion?
Well, sure. So people who have money in tax-exempt bond funds are disproportionately rich, So if you have so much money that, you benefit from a tax exemption for municipal bonds, then you are probably multimillionaire. And so that, there's nothing wrong with working hard and making money for people like that, but it wasn't something that necessarily got me up in the morning excited every day, right? I think that it's a lot more rewarding to see somebody who goes from a place of complete financial insecurity to the path of being on the road to financial independence and security for their family. And that transformation is really gratifying to watch that happen. And so, when I was doing kind of the Wall Street bond trading thing, I basically just decided that I was just going to leave that behind. I took a gap year, traveled around the world, and then decided that I was helping my wife manage her student loans. And she said, hey, you should help my friends out. Like they're in great need of this. And so I did that, started writing about the topic and used some of those bond trading Excel skills to put models out there on the internet. And a lot of those kind of just went kind of a little viral and people just really needed the help. And so that's how Student Loan Planner started.
That's so awesome. And what does your wife do?
She's a physician, a surgeon. So
very cool.
Yeah.
This is one of the things about podcasting from different places. We both have questions at the same time. So I'm going to raise my hand. Old school style.
Yes, Kate.
I'm going to raise my hand. Yes. I was curious though, Travis, before we dive into to your topic today, where did you travel across the world?
I went to about 40 countries. I went to all over Europe, Western, Central, Eastern Europe. Then I did that for maybe like 4 or 5 months. And then I went down to spend some time hanging out with the girlfriend, then girlfriend, now wife, and stay with her for maybe like a month or 2 months. And then I went down and traveled with my best man in the wedding. We went down in like Latin America and went to maybe 10 or 11 countries down there, all through Mexico, all the way down to Panama. So yeah, it was amazing.
Quite the gap year. That's amazing.
That is amazing.
And I was really into the financial independence movement, and I kind of felt like I was done working. I honestly was just so exhausted from doing the work that I had done that I was just my idea was I was just going to write books and just blog, and I didn't have the specific focus. And then when I was asking for my father-in-law's blessing to marry his daughter, he said no, and I was like, "What?"
Woo!
And, just go like straight out, where there was like a
he was just like, no. He's like, you don't have a job with a stable income, and my mother and father-in-law are first generation immigrants to this country, and so they believe in working hard, having a high stable income, like making sure you're a good worker and a good provider, that kind of thing. And I think that he was just kind of worried about me and what my long-term plan was. It kind of makes sense, if you were going to have your child marry somebody, you'd want them to be kind of a normal person, probably, right? And that was a little odd, I guess. And so part of the motivation for making Student Loan Planner successful too was, well, I don't want to go back and work in a typical corporate environment because that's just not my calling. So that's one of the reasons why when that happened, I was like, oh my goodness, this thing has to be successful. I don't have a choice.
Nice.
Interesting. I would love to get like tips on like your travel, but I know that's not what we're talking about today. But did you come home in between at all?
I did. Yeah, I would usually come home and spend some time at home, recharge, relax, see family and friends, go travel again, come back. So I did that. I actually went probably 3 times. The last time was only for a few weeks. Went with my younger brother to kind of show him the ropes.
So cool. Well, if I do need travel tips, I'm calling you back.
When I was in my early 20s, I went and backpacked around Europe for 6 weeks, and that was like the most amazing adventure. So you make me think of that, and it was so much fun, and I can't wait to do it again someday.
Definitely. You got to. Yeah.
So let's dive into the topic. Kind of share with us how it got started. Share with us kind of, I don't know where you want to get started in this topic. So
sure. Well, I mean, I'd love to kind of start off asking you two a question. What are the typical kind of folks that you talk to in terms of their student loan debts coming out of their programs these days? Like, what kind of numbers are you hearing in your space?
I think I'm going to let Kate answer that because she does have a PhD, and so she like did the whole thing.
I did the whole shebang, but I luckily, and I'm very blessed to say this, never had to do it with student loans. So I don't have the student loan struggle. I have a lot of compassion and empathy for those who do, because it's really hard to pay them off. And from some of the interns that I work with and some of the other therapists, it can be, I mean, it's pretty costly every month. I heard the other day that someone's being charged $800 a month for student loans, and that's just for the master's program. For PhD, I mean, it's well over $100,000 to get your PhD, and that's really costly when you're starting out as a clinician. And early on, clinicians really don't make a lot of money, unfortunately, especially in community mental health and treatment programs, enough to afford the cost of living down here in South Florida. I know it's probably different all across the U.S. So I don't have like specifics from my own experience, but just from what I've heard, it's very overwhelming.
And what would you say is like the typical income for a therapist, like somebody that goes through, your site?
It's around a teacher's salary for clinicians who are just starting out, and then, could range anywhere if they're not in private practice. If they're in treatment programs or community mental health, could be high 30s on up to maybe 55 at most. And then in private practice, it's significantly higher, but that takes time for clinicians to get to that point where they're making six figures plus and really able to make more income.
Sure. So then I asked that just because I want to kind of talk about two different scenarios. So the first one, who, let's say that she's doing the community mental health kind of program, working full time, making $40K a year. Let's say she's got $100,000 in student loan debt. So that kind of a person could really benefit from something called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. That's a program that's a 10-year program. You pay based on your income. And at the end of those 10 years, any remaining balance that you have left over is forgiven tax-free. So nice. Let's say you're making $40,000 a year. What they do is if you're on the revised pay-as-you-earn or the pay-as-you-earn program, then you're going to pay 10% of your discretionary income. So discretionary income is what your income is minus basically the federal poverty line times 1.5. So if you kind of do a little bit of math there, let's say that leftover amount after you do that subtraction is $20,000. And so then you would take 10% of $20,000, and that would be $2,000 annually. So just divide that up into monthly payments. Maybe that's like $150 to $170 a month, right? So that's $40,000 income person, even though they have $100,000 in student loan debt, could be paying like $160 a month, give or take. And if you could pay that $160 a month for 10 years while you're working full-time in one of these facilities, then your loans that you have not been even touching the interest on would be eligible to be forgiven tax-free, which is tremendous. So you're, in other words, you're talking about cutting the cost of a six-figure education down to maybe like $20,000 or so.
Wow. Now, what does one have to do to be eligible for that?
So you have to consolidate your loans. Usually the best thing to do is to consolidate your debt right after you finish graduation. However, you don't necessarily have to do that to be eligible. You just have to have direct federal loans. So what you can do is log into your loan servicer and look at the title of all of your loans. And if it says direct in the name of the loan, then that's an eligible loan for public service loan forgiveness. Very cool. And after 2010, the government started issuing these loans by default. So like everybody has direct federal loans after 2010 because the government took over the student loan lending. So for recent grads, especially, they probably are in a pretty good situation in terms of having their loans set up the right way. Now, the second part is once you have the right loans, you have to make sure you're actually paying on the right plan. So a lot of people will sign up for the extended plan or like the standard plan because they think it makes them feel good, right? Like if you're paying, $700 a month on your loans and you're going to be done in 25 years, that feels okay, right? Like you at least feel like it's going to end eventually, right? So like Kate, you mentioned like the $800 a month, right? So that's probably somebody who is trying to pay back her loans in full. And the issue
that's like a full rent payment a month, for someone, which is that's hard to swallow.
Well, yeah, and so what's tragic there is if she is making that payment when she doesn't have to. So that $800 a month payment, if she is eligible to pay based on her income, then her payment could be like $150 a month or something like we're talking about. So what's crazy is even though that payment would be $800 a month, if it's not a payment that she signed up for that's based on her income with one of these government programs, government repayment plans, then that's not a qualifying payment. Those payments do not count for loan forgiveness.
Wow. Now, does
Which
someone
is
have
crazy.
to be like have a job for this, or can they be in private practice?
So we're gonna talk about that second scenario because that's
Okay.
a different set of different situation, and that's actually cool that you can still make it work in private practice. So we can definitely chat about that. So for this, you have to be employed full time at a government or not for profit employer. So that's like a lot of different places in the therapy world, right? At least it's not as difficult to get that kind of a job in as a therapist compared to if you're, a veterinarian or a dentist or something, where like private practice is pretty much the main option that exists.
Yeah, and a lot of times when therapists are new to the field, a lot of times they do go to community mental health or a government type agency, mostly community mental health, I would say, or at least in this area. So I know I always say I did 11 and a half years, like it was a sentence. In community mental health, it kind of was. But this would be like perfect for someone just getting out of their master's program, if that's where they're going to go, jump on it. You never know.
Right.
And if you're like, I know that Kate actually has someone in her group practice that going through her PhD as well and still working full time. So if you are even going into a PhD program as well, and you're going to be working in community mental health, you're not ready for private practice, this would probably be really perfect for you.
Right. Yeah. The nice part is that, a lot of people could do this for 10 years, have their loans taken care of. And once their loans are gone, they'll have no debt. Then they could definitely feel really comfortable going out and doing their own private practice at that point, because, they won't have anything holding them back. Now, the other flip side to this is somebody who wants to get started right away. That's actually okay too. So let's talk about this second scenario. So let's say a person has, $125,000 in student loan debt. She's brand new grad, wants to be a private practice owner. And but they're concerned, like, well, how am I going to make this work? So as long as you have the typical things that an entrepreneur has to have to be successful, like an emergency fund and a business plan, and like all these things that you guys can help with, that's the main thing you have to be successful, even if you have a bunch of student loan debt. And the reason for that is if you are planning on, like Kate, you said some people make six figures. So if that's your plan to make six figures one day, then, and you have $125,000 of student loan debt and your spouse doesn't have any debt, then that debt is going to need to be repaid at some point, because your debt to income ratio is somewhat attractive if you're having a six-figure income with a low six-figure debt. So if you have $100,000 of income, $125,000 of debt, you're going to pay your debt off in full and not really receive any forgiveness. So what's cool is with these government repayment programs, there's one in particular called Revised Pay As You Earn. This program is a 10% of your income program, kind of like what we were talking about with the loan forgiveness. So you can sign up for this plan even if you're not going to long-term do loan forgiveness. And what's cool is, I would imagine, maybe I can ask this question: what's a typical income for like the first 3 years of practice on average? Well, the startup cost.
That's a good question.
I'm guessing low.
Well, it really depends. It could be anywhere between 45 to 60 to 80 to 100. It really just depends.
And I would even say sometimes like 20, but I think then you're still doing the balance of like full-time work.
Well, that
and
would be
practice
for a side hustle practice. Then
but I would say sometimes it depends. And this kind of goes to your point about like having a business plan and having a clear marketing plan and knowing where to put your money to make your practice grow, which a lot of times clinicians just starting out don't have that. I know Kate just shared with me, she had a conversation with someone the other day about like the field of dreams mentality. It's like, well, I'll just go into practice and I'll have 10 clients a week and things will be great. And it's like, that's how it works. So I don't know. I would say like lower sometimes. Maybe 30, 35.
So what's cool is like this program that I'm suggesting is actually something that's perfectly built for that kind of ramp up. So, at least in most businesses, like friends that I talk to, like, your first couple of years, like you can just break a profit, stay in business, like you're doing okay, as long as you're seeing consistent growth and like the recurring revenues growing and those kind of things. So with this Revised Pay As You Earn program, you can pay it at like $100 or $200 a month, but you're accumulating interest of like maybe $700 or $800 a month alone because of the high interest rate. So what's cool about the Revised Pay As You Earn program is that they subsidize a portion of that interest every month if your income is low relative to your debt. Mm-hmm. So your taxable income. So if you're making $40,000 a year, you owe $125,000, and you would normally be accruing interest at like $800 a month. If you're on this Revised Pay As You Earn, you might accrue interest at a rate of like $400 to $500 a month instead while your income's low. And then once your income grows up to a point where it's kind of high relative to your debt, that subsidy disappears. And then at that point, you could refinance your loans with a private lender, and you're basically selling them to a private lender and promising that private lender you'll pay them back instead. And because you have a high income relative to your debt, they're going to give you a lower interest rate in some cases than the federal government would. So you could cut a 6 or 7 or an 8% interest rate down to like 4 or 5, 5.5%, something like that. So the strategy there is, while you're trying to be successful in private practice, pay as little as possible, try to save as much as possible, and have a lot of liquidity for those unexpected events that happen in business so that you can grow. And then have your student loans put onto a plan where you'll get an interest subsidy, which will save you thousands of dollars a year. And then when you're finally up to the point where your income hits that level that you're expecting and you can pay it off, then consider refinancing your debt with a private lender and getting a cashback bonus, kind of like for credit cards. You can get cashback bonuses for refinancing, and also refinance to slash that interest rate to get out of debt even faster.
That is so much. I didn't even know this world existed. And my mind goes, because I'm a private lender in real estate. So my mind almost goes to well, how is the lender's money protected?
Yeah, great question. So student loans are the most difficult kind of debt to discharge in bankruptcy in the country.
Okay, gotcha. So it's protected that way.
So student debt is an unsecured loan, right? There's nothing, you can't, take somebody's brain when they don't pay.
Your education is mine now.
Yeah, exactly. I get to hold on to your license to, for the next 10 years until you pay me off, right? But what basically what the law says is that you can garnish assets, wages, it's actually a very powerful collection mechanism in most cases. So for that reason, the private lenders out there are more comfortable giving lower interest rates to people who are really good credit risks. So if you have over a 650 credit score, you always pay off your credit card every month on time, you have maybe a reasonable mortgage payment compared to your income, you don't drive, a brand new BMW with a, income that doesn't support it, something like that, then that lender is basically saying, well, treasury rates are 3%, and I can lend to you at 5%, and that's an attractive bond, so to speak. That's an attractive asset to own for an investment because people over a 750 credit score default maybe 1% of the time, for example. I'm just making these stats up, but that's what the investor's thinking. And so that creates an opportunity because the private government gives the same interest rate to people whether or not they're a basket weaver or a brain surgeon. So that doesn't make any sense. So what's cool with refinancing is, that higher income individual can get the better interest rate, whereas the person that's doing the basket weaving, I'm joking, of course, but they get to keep that interest rate that's a lot lower than they would get in the private market.
Gotcha. So where do you kind of come into all this equation?
Sure. So we make plans for people, like one-time flat fee plans at a fraction of the cost of what a financial planner would charge. So we'll come in and basically analyze people's debt, tell them exactly what to do to save the most money to pay it off, make sure that their student loan strategy is matching what they want for their life strategy. That's one of the big mismatches that we see a lot is somebody will be paying $800 a month, Kate, but they will, and wanting to start their private practice, but that's not at all aligning to what they want because maybe they wanted to do that private practice startup and they're putting all this cash flow into their debt. So they feel like they're afraid to start their private practice startup when they could be cutting their cash flow significantly, which is going to give them more flexibility and safety to succeed. So
a great resource. And I have several people in mind I'm already thinking of that I'm going to be like, oh, okay, you guys got to contact Travis, listen to this podcast.
Right. So our fee range is from $300 to $600 on average for flat fees. That's the paid plan. And then if somebody is already making $100,000 in a private practice and they have a modest debt, then our site also has those refinancing bonuses that I mentioned. People can click and shop around on their own, ask us how good the deal is, and that's free to do. So, we don't charge people for just applying through the links. That's a kind of a referral bonus deal where they get about 2/3 on average of the referral bonus and the cashback bonus, and we get about 1/3 of it. And so that's one part of our business. The other part of our business is help. I'm clueless. I think I'm doing the right thing, but I'm not sure. I just want a second opinion. And for people who owe less than $200,000, that's the the $295 flat fee rate. So that's what most social workers, therapists, psychologists, anybody with that kind of a degree would probably pay.
Well, I was clueless until this podcast. So that's good to know that these resources are out there. And also I like your approach. It's not just the student loan stuff, right? It's what are your goals? What is it that you want to do? And this is how we can help you as well as help you with the student loan stuff. So I love that. That's great, because one of the things that we talk about is really knowing, your financial goals, what it's going to take to get into private practice, all that stuff. So you are such a great resource for that.
Thanks. Yeah, we're passionate about helping people that help others, right? So that's the reward for me is I get to watch somebody go from thinking like they can't start a family, they can't start a practice, like they can't achieve what they want in their career, and then they learn about these like ridiculously complex loan rules and how to optimize them for their situation, and suddenly they're on the path where they want to be.
Right. That's awesome. Well, Travis, we so appreciate you being on our podcast today and reaching out to us, because I know that this is something that many therapists struggle with. So this is such a great resource for them to have a way to breathe a sigh of relief in regards to getting rid of that student loan debt. And also make your dreams come true, because that's just really important. So Startup Nation, we wanted to thank Travis for his awesome knowledge and information and helping you help others, as he said. And we hope that you join us next week. Next week, I'm going to be interviewing Kate on the podcast. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Kate is actually in the process of creating, and it's been a 10-month journey, her perfect group practice. So she's going to kind of talk us through, the idea of creating a practice, what that looks like, what you need to know, and just really overall her experience. So if you're in the process of creating, or you have created, or one day you will create your own group practice, or just your practice in general, you want to join us for that one. So Startup Nation, we want to say thank you for joining us today. As always, we love when you show us the love, whether that's an email, a review on iTunes, or even a Google review. We're inspired by us inspiring you, and that just makes us want to do more. So Startup Nation, have a fantastic and inspired day. Thank you for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery.
See you next time, everybody. Thanks again, Travis. This was awesome.
Sure. And the last thing, I guess, is if you have any questions, my email is travis@studentloanplanner.com. Feel free to reach out to me.
That's right, Travis. I forgot to ask how people can get in contact with you. So thank you for that. And Travis also has a quiz that will be on our show notes page. So you guys can go grab that. Travis, why don't you just share with them quickly about the quiz?
Sure. It's just going to allow you to give and I get an idea about whether or not you should be refinancing your student loans or going for loan forgiveness. So it's just a simple kind of free thing you can use to see, which path that we think that you should take.
Awesome. So definitely grab that, head over to the show notes page, and you guys can get that. And if this podcast speaks to you, I would definitely recommend getting in contact with Travis so he can help you. So thank you, Startup Nation. Thank you for allowing us to inspire you again from Startup to Mastery. Have an awesome day.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.